What is going on? It is James, aka the Comic Raider. Man, it has been a while on here, but glad to be here. You know, repping the new merch. Love this hoodie. Kind of just, wanted to do a little throwback Raiders rants. I used to do a lot of like reading and reviews on Omnibus and things like that on here. So I just read a story and I just wanted to talk about it. And I thought, you know what, let's nostalgia book. So let's have some nostalgia on this channel. So basically, origin of where all this comes from is the CbfC madness, hashtag CbfC madness. It's currently going on right now. Basically, your typical March Madness bracket type, not put together by me. That would be by Hetty Comics, SD Collector, and Bat Pina. Shout out to those boys. I just kind of served as a, fourth opinion. Let them do all the work. I was just there. So yeah, we have got a Marvel versus DC thing going on over there. It's been a lot of fun. Now that has led me to today was Hulk versus Doomsday. And then real quick, I just want to make sure I get it right. SD Key Collector. I think I said SD Collector. So let me just make sure I got my boy Cisco done right. But yeah, check those guys out on Instagram. But it's not, so those are all West members, but this is not a West only thing. We've gotten amazing participation from Fiends all across, and you don't even have to be a Fiend. Just, post a book. We would love you to tag us in it. Let us see what's going on. So again, there's a bracket of different characters going up against each other. Today was Hulk versus Doomsday, and as of right now, it's 11 o'clock p.m. as I'm filming this, so we got like an hour left. Unfortunately, it looks like Hulk is going to take the W, which is okay. Hulk is amazing. Both of these characters have had a much disservice by movie versions and things like that. Comic book wise, obviously have had some better portrayals. Hulk has had much more impactful stories than Doomsday, or I should say more of them. Death of Superman is iconic, but you got Planet Hulk, World War Hulk, Immortal Hulk has been great. So Hulk's had much better writers and stories written over time. I've always felt, I'm a huge Doomsday fan, and I have felt like Doomsday has really been shafted basically since he came on. So his best story is his introduction, and really since then has not had anything that has lived up to that, or has even just really truly expanded on that. This story we're about to get into now does, but it's also like right after Death of Superman, so it's kind of all one and the same. Anyways, so I posted some of these books on my Instagram, and flipping through the pages to kind of take some pictures and be able to post them, I was like, I want to reread this. It's a quick, easy read, but such a great story. So I wanted to reread it, and then now I just kind of want to talk about it and kind of shed some light on a great story and a great character, period. So we are going to get into Superman, Doomsday, Hunter Prey. There is book 1, book 2, and book 3. Very small, these are like those, the Marvel versus DC little things that they used to do. These trades from back then. So this is the back of issue number 1. This is the back of book number 2 and number 3. So pretty much this is going to take place after Death of Superman and Return of Superman. And it's going to start off with I grabbed book 2. It's going to start off with Superman has been, plagued by nightmares since this whole thing has happened. And so that's where it kind of starts, is recapping that whole Death of Superman. And then he ends up waking up and talking about, you know, how he's had this dream since, and it really makes you kind of stop and think, like, you have to think of the effect that Doomsday truly had on Superman. This is a guy who, to this point, has faced some tough battles, but he never died. He didn't know that he could die. So that's what he's now dealing with, is basically like PTSD of, this thing, this creature, actually killed me. And I'm struggling to come to terms with the fact that I died. And that this creature is technically still out there. So at this point, you know, Cyborg took Doomsday, tied him up to an to like a rock, sent him out into space, which is a big part of what happens later in the story. Actually, well, I guess on the next damn page, now that I think about it. Yeah, so, you know, Cyborg's tied him up. But at this point, you know, Superman's realizing, like, okay, he's could still be out there. And so now, not only am I affected just with the fact that I have died, but that the thing responsible for it is still out there. So then it basically skips to Doomsday is floating on this asteroid, and these people who are traveling they have a meeting with Apocalypse to sell some stuff, sell some slave laborers. And they come across the rock, and they're like, bring the rock inside. And then it ends up being Doomsday. Doomsday pretty much gets loose and attacks them, and is now loose on the ship. It basically skips ahead to, well, then it jumps to Superman talking to Lois, and he's explaining to her, like, I need to go find him. And I know that you don't understand that, and I know that you just lost me, and I hate doing this to you, but this creature is in my dreams every night. I can't rest until I know that I've, you know, put him down for good, basically. And so anyways, then you get the ship arrives to Apocalypse. Nobody's on board, so they go to search it. He escapes, takes out a bunch of people, and at this point now, Darkseid is like, oh snap, this creature that I've heard about is now on my planet. And so he's just kind of watching back. You know, Darkseid's just a boss. He's just sitting back, realizing, like, all right, let's see what happens. You know, bring out our best guys, and let's see. And then you find out that also there's been this little chip implanted on the back of Darkseid, which was the consciousness of Cyborg. So you also have the return of Cyborg, who now takes the armor of one of the elite guards of Apocalypse. So all that's going on. Basically, Cyborg wants to take over Apocalypse now. Well, he just wanted to take over whatever the hell planet Doomsday landed on. It just so happens to be Apocalypse. And he's like, oh, hell yeah. And Doomsday is just on a path of just, you know, killing everybody. And this is a very violent, I guess I would say, like, compared to some things that I've read nowadays, not super violent, but, I mean, there's still some violence here. You got an old dude's head floating, you know what I mean? Like, Doomsday is messing people up. So anyways, Superman's like, I need to find this guy. And so then he gets involved with, the Linear Men. And so he's talking to them about, like, you know, I need to know where he's at. And they're not supposed to be involved in things. They're kind of like, there's going to be some similarities here. Obviously, with DC and Marvel, you always wonder, like, well, who came first and what came first? You know, that Linear Man, almost like the Watcher in a sense, if you're familiar with that. He can't really, they're not supposed to be involved. They're just supposed to observe all these things of all these different periods of time. Anyway, so Superman goes after him, and at this point, Darkseid is like, no being has ever taken my Omega Beam, and he blasts Doomsday. And then he's, you know, talking his talk, and ends up that, well, Doomsday can take that beam and then return and fight you. And he basically is like, that's impossible. And then he gets messed up. Try not to curse here. He gets messed up by Doomsday, and Doomsday pretty much puts down Darkseid. And I will say, not too much of a struggle either. So now at this point, Desaad is like, he's trying to figure out, well, my leader just got wrecked, and I'm gonna need some help. So he puts a call out to the Justice League, well, to one of the guys at the Justice League headquarters to try and find Orion and them. Turns out Superman happens to be at the Watchtower and is like, what are you talking about? What's going on over there? And he's like, oh, nothing. And then he hangs up. Superman's like, nah, something's up. Let me go to Apocalypse. So they send him over to Apocalypse. I thought this was pretty crazy. Like, you're not going to see too often Darkseid being just dragged on the ground. Insane. So Superman's like, I need to get to Apocalypse. And he gets there. He doesn't know what to expect. He just knows something's going on. He gets there. He sees Cyborg, and he's like, oh, hell no, that guy's here. So they start to fight. But then Darkseid's like, oh, you don't know why I'm here. Well, let me show you. And I love this page because it's the reveal of Doomsday being on the planet. And just look at, again, this is a creature that is haunting Superman. Superman is afraid of this horror. And I love how they do that. And he now realizes he is here. And he's like, well, I need to stop him. Tries to stop him before a boom tube gets open. Desaad just wants this guy off his planet, so Desaad opens up a boom tube. Superman tries to get there, he doesn't. That's the end of book 1. Book 2 is now going to be Wave Rider. He's like, do I intervene? Do I not? And then, so Cyborg's taken over Apocalypse. Darkseid is pretty much down for the count. Superman realizes that the Mother Box can probably heal him, so he attaches that to him. And then Wave Rider shows up, and him and Superman have some words, and he's pretty much telling him, like, are you gonna, if you're not here to help me, then what are you doing here? I need to know everything that you know about Doomsday. Book 2 is great backstory to Doomsday, because they explain, Wave Rider pretty much starts to pass off his information. You take a planet with the environment so hostile that it seems incapable of supporting any manner of life. And there's this little dome, and inside the dome is this little creature who has decided that he wants to build the ultimate life form. And so he creates this baby, and then he sends the baby out into the universe against the locals who live there, obviously, locals. And they just talk about how the locals just destroyed the baby in seconds. Look at what they're doing to that baby. Life signs are gone. He died in less than 10 seconds. They're ripping him to shreds. And the alien's like, go get him. Go get him, recover what you can. So they recover what they can. They bring him in. He does it again. Sends him out again. Now he dies again. Over and over and over. And it basically describes it in like 30 years. He just constantly sends out. And each time, this baby survives a little bit longer. Sorry for the jump cut. My son Grayson woke up and needed to be put back down to sleep. So, where were we? We were at a planet with a creature being sent out into the environment over and over. Sometimes he died from the environment in seconds. Then, as they kept recloning him and sending him back out, he then was able to survive minutes. And then sometimes he would die from the local inhabitants ripping him to shreds. And as time goes on, he becomes capable of surviving them over and over and over. And you obviously put 2 and 2 together that this is how they created Doomsday, by just constantly evolving him. And then it gets to this point where now he is no longer a baby. Bertron, who's the alien that created him, calls him the Ultimate. At this point, the Ultimate has survived for like 2 years. Then he ends up killing now that he can't die from the inhabitants, he's now killing everybody that's on this planet. And so then they're like, he did it. He actually did it. And he's like, and then he tells you kind of like what he's made up of. So he does not breathe or eat. He has no internal organs and minimal fluids. He is almost solid throughout, nourished by solar energy that he can store for a millennium if necessary. can survive any element, destroy any creature. Should he find one stronger than he and be killed, he will come back to life, evolved into the superior being that he is. So then they realize, like, okay, well, he's been out there for 2 years. He just killed everything. Now what? And the guy, Bertrand's like, I had not expected him to make permanent survival status this soon. I don't know what to do. And then Doomsday goes back to the dome, punches in the dome, and because they're realizing, like, oh damn, he's coming for us now. Punches in the dome. Bertrand's like, you can't kill me, I'm your father. Dunzo, boy. And so then now, there was a ship that would come to this planet, drop off supplies for Bertrand and the crew, and then leave. He basically stashes on board of this ship. And then it mentions that, they left behind, obviously he destroyed the people in the dome, left it a little bit intact. The local inhabitants kind of took over that dome and found all this science stuff, and it began their journey into genetics and all that kind of stuff. So genetic experimentation is what they say. Here is where I was like, okay, I don't know which one of these came first, but actually it would have to be Marvel, because Marvel and Warlock. So this is where I never claim to be an expert. I've never read everything. I know Adam Warlock, the character from the Infinity Gauntlet story, reading the trade back in the day. Now, in the movies, you have, I forgot what they called themselves, but you had the people that were all in gold, right? That civilization, that planet that was all in gold, and they create, Warlock in the MCU. And it's this gold planet, and they create this being of immense power, right? Well, in here, very similar. There is a planet called Celaton. It is, all gold. There is a royal family that rules over it, and the royal family has inbred for long periods of time, and so they have meta-human abilities, and they decide that we need to sacrifice ourselves. Most of you in our family need to sacrifice yourselves so we can create this being called Radiant, and Radiant is going to destroy... The ship landed on Celaton, I'm sorry. That's why Doomsday was there. And he's destroying their planet. So they create Radiant. Radiant is capable of beating him because he's created of energy. He doesn't just throw hands with Doomsday. He blasts him with this energy that he had never experienced before. They do say that the battle lasted over a week. But Doomsday's taken down. Well, they end up taking Doomsday, following their ceremonial burying. They put him in that suit, and then they ship him off into space. He ends up crash landing on Earth, and that's how you get the story of how Doomsday lands on Earth. Now, they do say that this is hundreds of thousands of years ago. Eventually, he was able to regenerate. He's unkillable. And let's see. At this point, Darkseid is now awake and healed from the mother box, and he tells Superman, you need to go deal with Cyborg. Get him the hell off of my planet, because he's pretty much, now hacking into everything and trying to control everything. And Superman runs up and holds him while Darkseid blasts him with some Omega beams. He actually ends up not dying, at least not the first blast. They continue to fight until he starts evolving into these robot machines, and then at which point Darkseid's like, alright, I've had enough, I'm now back up to full power, and he blasts the giant robot with a full Omega beam, and it is a wrap for our boy Hank Henshaw. And now at this point, they're like, alright, Doomsday, I sent him off to Celaton. Desaad said, I sent him off to Celaton. They can deal with him because they've dealt with him before. And now at this point, they're realizing, Superman realizes, well, then that's where I need to go. So now we're on to book 3. Obviously, I'm kind of basically just going over this whole story, so you don't have to, but I still recommend, you get in here and check it out. I just, like I said, I love this story. I really wanted to talk about it. I feel like this story, a lot of people didn't necessarily read. Everybody read, Death and Return and all that. But anyways, book 3 now begins. And Darkseid says that, well, when I blasted Cyborg, I basically put his consciousness inside this tiny little gold sphere, and I will use it whenever I feel like resurrecting him, and then I'm going to control him at that point. The Mother Box realizes that Superman is about to take off to go fight Doomsday, and it changes his costume into this Hunter-Prey costume. And I'm just saying, shout out my boy Todd McFarlane. I know you're not going to watch this, but you make a whole crap ton of Superman figures that all look the same. Why don't you give us a Hunter-Prey Superman action figure, alright? I would love that. Thank you. And so anyways, I just think it's a very neat, different design, Superman with this headband and gold-plated, half armor and pouches. They even talk about, like, dude, you got some weapons on there, like, you don't even use weapons. And he's like, I know, I'll figure all that out later. Anyways, he goes to Celaton, and Doomsday is, of course, at this point, wreaking havoc. But then Radiant comes, although it's technically like a different version. That was hundreds of thousands of years ago that they fought. This is a newer version of Radiant, but he tells him, like, I remember how to beat you. And he blasts him, but then boom, can't kill him. You ain't gonna kill him like that again. And he says that he altered his energy, and that's pretty much how Darkseid now defeats Radiant. Superman now arrives and talks to Radiant as he's dying. He tells him that everything is powered by a central facility, and he's gonna go and destroy that. So basically, Superman runs up on Doomsday as he's in the middle of destroying that, and they get into an epic fight. I'm not going to go page by page through this, but, it's a lot of really cool action back and forth. You do see some further mutations. Superman's trying to fly and keep a distance, and then Doomsday has mutated, and now those knuckles will spring out and hook into Superman, not allowing him to get away. Alright, that's mutation number 1. Then Superman's like, alright, fine, but, I bet you can't handle ultrasonics. It stuns Doomsday for a bit until his ear canals close. And now he's not bothered by that anymore. And they continue fighting. Wave Rider gets involved here. Very nice, cool, colorful 2-page spread there. Well, I guess, not one full spread, but you get, cool 2 pages there. And he pretty much tells him, like, oh, Doomsday sees you as Bertrand. That's why he's going after you so hard. Like, that's why he went straight to you in Metropolis. Actually, for the record, when Superman finally confronts Doomsday, he's like, I don't know if you remember me, but I put you down before. And Doomsday's like, Metropolis. And he's like, oh, damn, you can talk and you remember me? So anyways, now that's why Wave Rider says, like, oh, he sees you as Bertrand, the guy that created him. And Superman's like, why? Why would he even think of me as him? And it's basically because, this is, spoiler alert, this whole rant has been a spoiler, but that planet that we talked about that he was engineered on, that the inhabitants, after he destroyed that dome, took over what was left of the dome and kick-started their own evolution and genetics and all that, that was Krypton. So Doomsday was created on Krypton, so he sensed the Kryptonian in Superman, and that's kind of what made him go after him and kick-started all that. So anyways, now Superman's aware of that. We get a really cool, now we get a full page spread here. Very cool action shot there. Blah, blah, blah. They continue fighting. Like I said, it's a long battle, but it is a great battle of the two of them just beating the crap out of each other. He breaks Superman's arm at the top. Superman's like, I didn't even know that you could. And then he's like, oh, damn, compound fracture. I've never seen Superman's arm get snapped like. I mean, no one has. So, bro, snapped his Superman? He snapped Superman's arm? I mean, obviously he killed him, but you know what I mean. Like, that's still cool to see. Um, but yeah. Anyways, they keep fighting and fighting and fighting, and then he kind of starts to just beat the crap out of Superman, launches him into that whole facility that's controlling their planet. It lets off this giant boom equal to 1,000,000 nuclear blasts, and they basically like level a huge portion of this planet. But regardless, they both end up waking up. They both survive. They continue to fight each other until it gets to a point where Wave Rider's kind of out of commission at this point. He's not on the battlefield, but his bracelet is. Superman puts the bracelet on Doomsday's shoulder, and he's like, and combined with the mother box, they go into this place. This crazy, trippy, rainbow place. Superman doesn't know where they're at. Wave Rider is there, though. Tells him, we gotta get out of here now. Come to find out, this place is literally the end of the universe. This is the point in time at which the universe dies. And therefore, Doomsday will die, and does die, because even he literally can survive the end of time. So that is how they put down Doomsday for good. In this, of course, Doomsday has still made appearances since, but this was basically, Superman's way of conquering that fear. Being the hunter or being the prey. And I think that this is an amazing story, an amazing follow-up to what is already a absolute classic of the death of Superman. This is a great follow-up that is heavily slept on, that not a lot of people really know about or read, and I think it gives really good backstory to Doomsday, how powerful he is, how much of just a monster he is, and it's done very well. The art is great, as you saw in a lot of those panels that I showed. Story's really good, and yeah, so I highly recommend checking this out. Again, I know I basically spent this whole time covering the whole thing, but that's what I like to do, man. For those of you who don't know, Raiders Rants, this is what I do. And but yeah, this was a lot of fun. I love this series and highly recommend it. So that's pretty much it. That is my welcome back. I'm not opposed to doing this again. Basically, the next cool thing I read like this, I'll go ahead and make another one of these. But if you do, or if you did enjoy this, please like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you want to see more of this. I will give a shameless plug to my own channel, The Comic Raider. Make sure to find me on there. That is definitely, I made that one because it's everything. I'm into so many different things. Video games, comic books, movies. There's a ton of movie reviews on there. Granted, I haven't really been to the movies like at all in the past, I don't even know, 8 months. But there's a ton of older movie reviews on there the last couple years. So make sure to check that out. And again, it's just kind of a lot of different things on there. My weekly reads, all that stuff. So shameless plug, check out your boy on there. And as always, check out this channel too. And let me know if you want to see more of this. So till next time, Comic Raider is out. Y'all stay safe out there. Deuces.